Madam President, are you ready for roll call? Trish Bodie.
Here.
Gloria Gonzalez de Lucia.
Here.
Alexis Grimes.
Here.
Aaron Johnson.
Here.
Jim McKay.
Here.
Christine Maurer.
Here.
Anna Smith.
Here. All right, it is noon, 12 o'clock p.m., and with a quorum of the board present, I call this meeting, special meeting of the Leander ISD Board of Trustees to order. Trustees, I would like to thank you. This is a volunteer position, and I know y'all are doing a lot to make your schedules work for being here, so thank you for being here. We know the community is doing a lot. Our teachers and principals are doing a lot. I would like to thank and do a shout out for our principals, our teachers, our registrars, and our receptionists. Not only did they have opening day things that they had to navigate through, they also had opening day after a year when it was that COVID environment and there weren't as many kids in the classroom to work through. And then of course the current situation and environment that we all find ourselves in. So thank you so much to all of our teachers, staff, principals, administration, CNS workers, bus drivers. Y'all are doing an amazing job and we thank you so much. Without further ado, I would like to, and I also want to say the reason we're doing this meeting at noon, I want to make sure we clarified, is the superintendent needs a vote or us to discuss a certain item. We're trying to do it to make sure they get time to respond and do some things after our meeting, which is why we're trying to get it done before Friday night really late, as our meetings can go and they have all weekend, and we're giving them a little more time during working hours to get it done. Without further ado, I would like to go to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam President. Board members, thank you for being here today. I really do appreciate that flexibility that you've shown. I know that you are taking time out of your personal schedules, your work schedules, to be here for a volunteer position that does not pay you anything. And so I really do sincerely appreciate that. I'm going to ask that you please keep your questions to the end of our presentation. We're going to have John Graham come up in a little bit and just give us an update on where we are. We ask just that you keep your questions to the end so we can get through all of that, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. So I'll start by saying that we were ecstatic yesterday to welcome back our students and our staff in person. It was really heartwarming to be around the district in our classrooms and see our students and our staff back together again where they're meant to be. We know that in-person learning is what's best for our students and our staff. And we were thrilled to be able to see that happen. You could see the connections happening physically and emotionally and socially in schools across the district. And so we are very grateful to you and to our community for helping us to make sure that that happened in very volatile circumstances. I want to again express a huge thank you to you as a board for your support, for your flexibility, for setting core beliefs in this district, for really establishing a strong vision and a strong mission. We've had to fall back on those core belief statements and that vision and mission significantly as we face these really difficult decisions and these challenges. And so I'm so grateful that we've taken the time to really establish what those are, and your input has been invaluable in doing that. And so I wanted to make sure that you understood that that's really critical board work. It's allowing the district to navigate these unusual circumstances much better, I think, than if we didn't have that. So thank you. I want to thank our central office team for the incredible job that they're doing. This is long, hard work. Most people don't see the time, the effort, the sweat, the tears, the emotions, the really difficult challenges that individuals have to face, that teams have to face when we're collectively trying to do what's right for each individual student. And the central office team has stood up, has responded, and done a really incredible job of providing the right level of support to the next level of folks who are our principals and at the campus level to make sure that they can get their job done. To our principals, it's just, I don't really have words to describe how difficult this is for them and how much grace and poise they've showed in accepting the challenges that we've handed to them, because the outcomes are aligned to our core beliefs and our vision. They have accepted that, they've embraced that, and they've taken on some really difficult challenges in order to meet the needs of each individual child that they're responsible for. And so our principals are doing an incredible job of making sure that we can make this happen. Our teachers have had to face some real changes in the last week. And again, they've accepted those changes with poise and grace for the most part, and we're really grateful for the work that they're doing. You heard our board president mention our other staff members who are often behind the scenes and don't get recognized. Starting school in a normal year is difficult. Starting school in this kind of circumstance is next to impossible, and our staff are doing an incredible job of making sure that we're getting students in our classrooms and that we're able to do the job of learning, which is what we're all about. I want to thank our students and their parents for patience as we face some challenges starting the year, and our community for supporting us as we go through. We have had some real challenges. I know I was grateful on the first morning to be stuck in traffic because it meant we were back in person, but we did have some significant traffic challenges the last couple of days. We think we're getting those straightened out, and that will continue probably for the next week or 2 weeks as everybody finds their groove and gets settled down into how they're getting to school and where they're dropping their kids off and how that's going to work, and then how they're picking them up again. We have had some transportation challenges. I do want to point out that making sure that we're fully staffed has been very challenging in this environment, and so we've seen some challenges on the transportation side and also on the child nutrition side. We continue to offer free meals for all of our students across the district, and we're grateful for the opportunity to be able to do that because of the federal grants that we have. I'd like to turn to just some numbers from the first day so that you can get some idea about what our enrollment is looking like. These numbers are very raw, so I'm not putting them up on a slide for you. I'm just going to say these out loud. Please know and understand that these numbers are changing on a minute-by-minute basis, and we will continue to see them changing over the next several weeks. So as best we can determine, as a raw count of enrollment, we have 38,957 students in person yesterday. Our remote count, so this is for students who will start on August 19th, next Thursday, has currently been refined down to 1,626 students. That includes the original pre-K through 12 group of 298 students who were in that original remote learning offering, and 1,329 students from our K-6 waitlist. You heard a much bigger number than that the other day, almost 2,025. As we refined those lists and contacted those parents, we had several duplicates on there that we eliminated, and then several people who decided that they did not want to be on that remote wait list after all. And so we have refined that number down. So we have a total count that should be in place on August 19th of 40,583. So to put that in context for you, we ended 2021 with 40,736 students. So we're just a little shy of that number. Our budget number was 41,749. Our passive projection, medium projection was 43,951. And our on-paper enrollment as of August 5th was 42,864. So we're seeing fewer students than we had projected to see. We also suspect that we'll see more of those students coming back over the next several weeks, but we'll be watching those numbers very carefully and bringing you updates on where we are. In order to stand up the remote expansion that we're going to ask you to fund today, it did require us to make a significant change to teaching assignments for approximately 82 teachers in our district. I can't give you an exact number because that number is still changing as we refine what that virtual offering will look like as we start on August 19th, next Thursday, for those students. I want you to understand that that's a huge ask because teachers, these 82 teachers were ready and prepared to teach their students in person in their classrooms. They had planned for that, they were ready for that, and they were about to have open houses and start in a couple of days when we asked them to shift and change to remote positions. And so I ask you to just give them a lot of grace and thanks for being willing to make that adjustment at the last minute. So we are going to ask you and the community and everybody involved to please be kind, to please extend grace and patience. We know that you're frustrated. We know that this is a difficult situation, but we are doing the best that we can. We are human, and we're going to make mistakes. We're going to own those mistakes when we make them. And we are going to step up as a continuous improvement district. And when we make those mistakes and we've owned them, we're going to do things better. And so we will continue to work very closely with our local health departments and with our local governments to make sure that we make decisions that are best for each and every child in our district. I ask that if you have requests, if you have things that you need, that you continue to reach out to us. That's how we know and understand what the will of the community is, and we are your community schools. So we're going to do the best that we can to meet the needs of each and every one of the almost 42,000 students that we're working with in Leander ISD, in our family. I do want to point to one thing for you in terms of where we are with COVID cases before I ask John Graham to come up here and speak to us a little bit about where we are with COVID and our protocols and other details. So this is the Williamson County COVID-19 impact dashboard, and these are the case counts per 100,000 population. And so I just want to point out a couple of things. This graph stretches. You can see that first peak was on August 12th of 20. You can see that after that first peak, it fell off and then peaked again a little bit later as school came back into session. The middle peak is much taller, and that's what happened in the wintertime. You can see the very tallest part of that peak on the green line, which is the Williamson County line. The blue line is the Travis County line, was on January 20th of this year. And that fell off, and then there was another little peak as school came back into session in January. And so here we are in August with the Delta variant peak, which is a little different. You can see that there's a much steeper exponential rise for Williamson County and Travis County together. But what I want to point out to you is that when you zoom in on this current one, what you'll see is that that peak, the highest number, case count number that we have in Williamson County was on August 4th. And that since then, the numbers have plateaued and are dropping slightly, both in Williamson and Travis County. I'm not trying to predict what's going to happen next. I just want to point out the fact that the highest case count number we have per 100,000 was on August 4th, and those numbers are coming down. As schools go back, we've seen what's happened before, so we expect that number to rise again at some point. But if you look to the global incidences of the Delta variant, the rise has been very sharp, as you saw in Williamson and Travis County, exponentially sharp. But once it peaked, it also dropped off relatively quickly. And so we can hope that the same will happen to us. But I'm not making predictions, I'm just pointing out facts. With that, I'd like to invite John Graham to the podium so that he can speak to you about the district's response.
Good evening, good afternoon. I'm so used to saying evening. Good afternoon, Madam President, trustees, and Dr. Gearing. The other day, Dr. Gearing got a little bit in my head. He asked me to speak today, and I asked him what he wanted me to say, and he said, be yourself. And normally, I don't bring notes up here and all kinds of other stuff, but I've actually written something down today because I don't want to miss anything. And so Over the past few weeks, we have reviewed and updated and adapted our COVID protocols to prepare our campuses and district sites to not only be responsive, but practical. And I'm going to say this again. We can't use last year to this year. I'll use Vandergrift High School as an example. There were 300 students a lot of times at Vandergrift High School, and I don't know their actual enrollment, but I would say it's over 2,500, 2,600 to 2,700. And so saying what we're doing this year compared to last year, we can't necessarily do everything we did last year because things are different, and we know that. And so on Wednesday, I believe, or Tuesday, it's all starting to run together. Was meeting with elementary principals. We were as a team, and I had to continue to remind them because they are working very hard. Their teachers are working very hard and trying to create systems based on things we tried to do last year, knowing that we can't do that in every site to be as similar as last year. And so when we look at our COVID protocols, it's very important to understand we have protocols, we have guidelines, we have recommendations. We work very closely with each individual principal and each individual campus to create protocols that best work for each campus based on their needs. Not every one of our campuses are designed and built the same. And so we are working to be as flexible, but as responsive and prepared and ready to do whatever we need to continue to keep our students and staff healthy and safe. We are doing some things that we did last year that we do know are impactful. We are contact tracing. We brought that change to you. Dr. Gearing talked a little bit about it last week, I believe. We are contact tracing. It does look different, pre-K through 6th and 7th through 12th, but we had a positive case yesterday, and the practices we put in place, I think, worked very well. And if you go on to the dashboard at our website, you can see what that looks like, how families were notified and the information that they can see. We are isolating all positive people in our district, students and staff. If they are positive, we are isolating them for 10 days. Based on the new rules provided by us, by the Department of State Health Services, we are also isolating people with symptoms. And so based on our expert nurses' medical decision, if there are symptoms that our students are experiencing at school, we are also isolating them. That is one of the rules that we are required to follow, but is something that is necessary. And so we're isolating for positive and for symptoms. So we are contact tracing, we are notifying, and we are isolating. We are notifying our health departments. We work closely with our health departments, and so if there is a positive case, we do notify our health departments. We partner with them to make sure that we're making the best decisions, and we've had a little over 30-something cases this week between staff and students, and so at each time we notify, we work through, and so there are things that we're doing to help limit. Some of the things that I highly encourage, I do highly encourage masks. I do believe masks are important, and so I do encourage masks. I also encourage for any family or student that is experiencing symptoms to stay home, to do your self-checks. Those self-checks are so important. I was so proud of our families that started notifying us before school even started to make sure that we knew that they would not be at school and that they had done exactly what we wanted them to do. If they were positive or if they had symptoms, they notified us and they stayed home. And that started to occur before school started. That allows us to, of course, keep them off our campuses, but also start to serve them because we know that they're going to be home for a period of time. Some of the other things that we are doing, we are continuing to partner with our different providers to provide vaccines. We know the effectiveness of vaccines, and so I encourage vaccines. Of course, we know that that's not appropriate for all, especially our youngest learners, and so of course speaking to your healthcare provider to help them make that decision for you. But we are offering vaccine clinics. We had one last week. We are working to get 3 more, one in the north, one in the central, and the one in the south part of the district. And so we're trying to best serve our district and make access easier for vaccines. And so when we do have those dates and times set and locations, of course, we will get that information out there. We are also partnering with Curative Health. We will be offering a testing site at Gupton Stadium. It starts next week, and it will be open throughout the day and in the evenings for people to have easier access to testing. The one thing, and I think most of you know me quite well, I like to know and be prepared and be ready for anything, and so I don't like the uncertainty. But there is a lot of uncertainty right now. I'm never going to not speak my truth, and the uncertainty is something that is worrisome. But what I do know, as someone that has been an administrator in this district for over 16 years, our teachers and our staff and our principals and our district staff have always and will always try to do our very best to take care of our students. And yes, it may look different, but I was on a lot of campuses yesterday, and I've been on campuses today. And there are measures that they're taking. There are measures that you may not see that they're taking, but they are taking measures to follow our protocols to the best of their ability. And is it going to look the same as last year? No. But are we doing things? Yes. Are we using the measures and the protocols and the resources that we have available to us? Yes. But I think it is important for people to know it cannot and will not look the same at every location because of the changes that have occurred, not only with some of the different things that have been provided to us, but also because we have 38,000 students back in our schools as of today. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate that update. I'd like to just summarize my thoughts on masks specifically to make sure that our approach so far is clear. So the governor in our current structure in the state of Texas has the ability to issue executive orders. We do have Executive Order GA 38, which does not allow us as a school district to mandate masks. And we are going to follow the governor's executive order. That is why we have highly recommended masks, because we know that they were effective in the last 18 months. We know that they can continue to be effective as we go forward. And so we are encouraging all of our students and our staff to wear masks in our facilities if at all possible. We are also encouraging them to be outdoors if they can, to space out from each other if they can. But we have a lot of students in our schools. These are large, comprehensive schools, and that becomes very challenging to do. In my opinion, this comes down to the issue of compulsion. So the governor's argument is that we shouldn't compel individuals to have to wear a mask. And that's okay, and that choice is valid. The problem that we have is that if we are not compelling masks in our schools, but we are compelling our K-6 students to come to school and they don't have access to a vaccination, and there are other students who are not wearing masks, then I think we have an issue of compulsion here when we've given choice here. And that is the reason that as a district we decided to try to offer the choice here. And that's why we're here today, to ask you to help us to fund remote learning for those parents and students who have requested that. I will point out that we know that those who are on that list right now for remote learning are not the only ones who potentially need or want remote learning. And we're going to continue to work really diligently to try to meet the needs of each and every individual student and family situation in our district. That's our commitment to you as a board and our commitment to the community. That's not going to be easy. It's not going to look pretty necessarily, but we are committed to trying to make that work. And we'll talk a little bit more about how that affects the resolution that we're going to have in front of you a little later in the meeting. So with that, we'd like to turn it back over to the board. We're happy to try to answer any questions that you have, but I know there may be more discussion among board members as well. Thank you, Madam President.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Gehring, and thank you, John. And again, thank you to all of our teachers, staff, and our community. Big believer of that word unity and community, and we're trying to work together. Board members, we can ask questions. Let me also remind you that we have citizen comments coming up. So I also want to be respectful of our citizens who have signed up to speak. We have just over 20. So we will try to do a couple rounds of questions, and if this agenda item takes longer, with your permission, and we'll just kind of gauge it as we have the discussion, we may end up pausing this agenda item to go to our citizen comments and pulling this back through our agenda. Board members, I imagine there's lots of questions. I don't know if we want to do this in an order where everybody asks one question at a time and we just going around so everybody gets heard, or if we're just going to do open mic and everybody jump in. I just want to make sure that your voices are heard and y'all get to ask your questions.
Madam President, I was just going to suggest that we begin with citizen comments. I think our agenda is focused on a single issue, and I think the questions and discussion we may have related to the superintendent's presentation can all be covered under that agenda item. And so my recommendation, if board members are willing, is that we invite our citizens to speak first and then we have our discussion.
I agree with Aaron on that.
Okay. Just a second.
Yeah.
I think
That's what we'd
Aaron,
like.
okay, let's not all jump in at once. Just a second. Let's keep it ordered. We've got a lot of stuff, and I know there's so many thoughts going. I heard a lot of thoughts, and I know you want to issue them. That's why I threw it out there of, could we pause this and hear citizen comments? Aaron, thank you for taking another step and saying, hey, let's pause this all together. I am fine with that. I think what I heard was Anna and Jim, Gloria and Alexis. Any other thoughts on how we proceed in the best orderly fashion? I'm seeing head nods. We can do to citizen comments. Tremendous. Board members, we're going to go ahead then. Thank y'all so much for speaking up and allowing us to go ahead and move to this item. We're going to move to our citizen comments portion of our agenda. Please note there are other ways you can communicate with the board, and I think some of our community knows that because we have been getting emails and governance, so thank y'all for sharing your voice. This agenda item is time set aside for us during this meeting to hear from our community. Now, we are going to be restricted in the ways we can interact with you during this portion of our meeting per our board operating procedures and policy BED local, which states the board shall not deliberate or make decisions regarding any subject that is not posted on the agenda. Therefore, please note this format is not a conversation. It's not a back and forth discussion. We'll ask your comments respect that limitation, and as such, please refrain from directing comments about an individual by name who would not be able to respond. Our board operating procedures enumerates further requests, but I'm going to sum up by saying we encourage polite and professional conduct. I also see we have some of our littlest learners here to come speak to the board as well. And we ask that the audience and those participating help us maintain the decorum of this meeting, and as such, there shouldn't be outbursts or verbal demonstrations during citizen comments. Each speaker will have up to 1.5 minutes. It is my intention to make sure we respect and honor each speaker's time, board members and community. We need to make sure, board, as you're thinking about process, quorum will need to be if we're going to vote on our agenda items for this evening. So we're going to try to make sure we can get everything done in a orderly time frame. So without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and call up our first group of speakers. We're going to do a panel, if that is okay. And I'm going to, I think I can call you all by your first names to make that. Yes, and if I see two people jump up, then I'll realize I've missed something. So we're gonna do, we're gonna call up now Catherine, Sarah, Lori, and Zach. Thank y'all so much for being out here to talk to the board. There is a microphone button. If you look at that little button, when you press it, that's when you begin speaking. And then when you're done, please press it to turn off so that there's not extra noise in the next person's testimony. Thank you. We'll start with Catherine whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Superintendent and Board, for letting me speak. By the way, a mistake is a typo, not a life. I am here to thank you for expanding virtual, as my family is one that is impacted. Today, I had the privilege to drop my kids off with a friend, which is something most don't have, as I was planning to bring them with me. I had to make the choice for virtual since you refused to issue a district-wide mask mandate like many others have. Unfortunately, virtual is going to cause my children to struggle. My oldest loves learning with his classmates and thrives on that socialization and being in the classroom. I am grateful he will be safe, as only one child wore a mask in his class yesterday. The only mask, since his teacher refuses to do so as well. My middle child will also struggle, as he receives speech therapy through the district and has since he was 3.5 years old. He made leaps and bounds last year in the classroom as he listened to his classmates speak and articulate words. While we appreciate virtual, it's not our favorite. We are also disappointed to see that in order to apply, you had to note that you acknowledged you had to provide food. As we know, some families are lower income and rely on the free meals, and this year, like last year, is free again through a grant. Well, I guess free, except for virtual kids. How are we providing a safe and equitable option for all families? Yet another hardship for parents trying to keep their children safe. Do better. Virtual is the only option, as my kids have to wait to get a vaccine, and you won't step up. Now's the time.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Sarah?
Superintendent and members of the board, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. Thank you for extending virtual learning this week. However, many parents did not place their name on the virtual wait list because there were thousands and only a few hundred spots. So currently, not all of those who want to participate in virtual learning are able to do so. In addition, virtual learning largely impacts a parent's ability to work and provide for his or her family as they monitor. Further, as an educator with a master in early childhood through 6th grade education and years of experience teaching and tutoring in a variety of contexts, I know that children, especially young children, do not learn best virtually. My son is one of these students. I kept him home from school at the beginning of the pandemic for several months, and little to no learning took place, and indeed, he had some serious regressions because he was not in a learning environment with his peers. The young children for whom school is an important chance not only to learn academically, but also socio-emotionally, are these same children who are too young to receive the COVID vaccine before attending school. In order to balance both the concern for these children's physical well-being in the current pandemic, as well as their social and emotional health, the American Academy of Pediatrics has recommended in-person learning with masks required for all. A parent should not have to weigh whether physical or socio-emotional health is more important for his or her child. Our goal as educators and parents should be to give these children a safe environment in which to develop in all aspects of their lives, and we will not achieve that until we have in-person learning with required masks.
Thank you, Sarah. Lori?
As a parent, I want my child to learn in the best environment, and that's in person, but it needs to be safe. I am deeply concerned by what I saw on the first day of school yesterday. 1,200 students, more than half unmasked with a high percentage unvaccinated. Our district is risking school shutdowns. Doctors are raising the alarm. It's dangerous even for those of us taking precautions, but I am here to advocate for families with underlying conditions and asthma to be able to attend school. We want in-person learning, but need the option to switch to virtual, including quarantine or sick days, as allowed by TEA. When Austin ISD put a mask mandate, 700 students returned to in-person. What is the financial impact of that? Masking may help reduce virtual learning needs and costs. I get it, we're all maxed out, but we have to do more. We have to do better for our kids. I implore you to immediately raise the district level to red. Middle school kids are struggling to reconnect and social pressure to take off their masks at school, if not required by the school. These young kids are making life-altering decisions and they need our guidance. Please consider a new mask policy where any child who does not want to wear a mask must provide a district form from a parent or guardian to opt out. I heard another ISD may be doing this. The language in the form needs to follow the law, but exhibit the serious risk. If you think it's traumatic to wear a mask, imagine the impact on families that have to struggle through weeks or months of medical issues. What is the impact on all the kids? Please make LSD policy stronger for safer schools. Parents need to know if their kids are choosing not to wear a mask at school, and schools need the tools to know what parents want. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Zach, you're up.
Hello, board members. I'm an 8th grader with asthma, and I'm going to school in person. I'm being as careful as I can, but it's very difficult to be totally safe. I'm loving seeing my teachers and peers in person versus when I was going to school virtually. And I just can't imagine going back on Zoom. Please make school safer so I don't have to get stuck back on Zoom.
Zach, thank you for your excellent communication skills and coming to speak to the board. Thank you, panel, and we'll go ahead and have our next 4 speakers come up. We're going to ask for Liz, Sally, make sure I'm saying this right, I want to make sure I don't read the letter, Shadana, and David. I'm sorry, I was trying not to use my glasses. So. I've got Liz, Sally, Shadanda, and David. If I got it right? Okay. You had it on and it went off on you. There you go. Thank you so much.
Thank you to the Superintendent, Bruce Gearing, and the Board of Trustees for a chance to speak. I'm speaking as a former substitute teacher and recent nursing school graduate set to take my nursing boards next month. Shortly thereafter, I will join the nursing profession in the great state of Texas as a registered nurse. As a nursing student taking care of patients in the hospital, I saw the effects of this pandemic on patients, families, and our children. Most importantly, however, I'm here speaking as a mother to a 7-year-old child in Leander ISD. I'm here to speak in support of the expansion of virtual education in LISD. I want to thank the governance team for expanding virtual education for those families who cannot send their kids to school due to a lack of a mask mandate in our schools. I hope you extend an invitation to more families who may need virtual program in Leander ISD in the future. We are a new family in this district. My daughter, who is here with me today, was excited to enroll in a local elementary in LISD. However, we had to make a tough choice yesterday. We withdrew her. She missed her first day of 2nd grade in person because there is no mask mandate. However, other families don't have that option. Low-income families and parents who both work outside the home can't afford the financial repercussions of staying home and doing virtual education. Virtual doesn't work for everyone. My daughter's aunt, my sister, Dr. Nancy Rivera, is a pediatrician. Dr. Rivera, along with the American Academy of Pediatrics, believes that the best place for our kids is in schools with masks required. However, children in Leander ISD, like my daughter, will need to do virtual school or homeschool. Please be brave and mandate masks. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Sally Gregono, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the board. I have 2 boys who attend Vandergrift High School. I am also a physician in the community, and I have a son with significant heart disease. I am very concerned about the lack of mask wearing in our school system. We know masks work, but they only work if everyone wears them. The current situation with the Delta variant is ominous and is filling our hospitals with very sick patients. I worry that once school starts and masks are not being enforced, we will have an even bigger crisis on our hands. Currently, there are very few ICU beds left in the state. This doesn't just apply to COVID patients. If you or a loved one were to have a car accident, you may not be able to get a bed. At the beginning of the pandemic, it seemed that our children were mainly spared the effects of COVID. This is no longer the case. Our children's hospital is full of sick children with both RSV and COVID. Once we head into winter and head into the school year, the situation is going to become much more frightening. Our younger children are not yet eligible for the vaccine. If we continue on this course, I worry that we will face school closures. This is about protecting those most dear to us. Unfortunately, many parents are working parents and don't have the luxury of staying home to homeschool their children. They are hoping that they can send their children off to a safe environment. Right now, the only resource we have other than vaccines is to mask. Most of the children in the school system are too young to receive the vaccine. I implore you to do the most we can to protect our innocent children. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. David?
Press the button. All right, it's on. Cool. All right, so I'm just going to read this. Let me start off by saying that last year I thought the school district did an admirable job dealing with what was an uncertain and dynamic situation. I'm just putting out an idea in the air, is that the $6 million in funding you've outlined should be allocated in a more flexible manner to deal with the uncertainties of the new situation. Last year, while many things weren't ideal, it seemed like constant iterative progress through the year and capability to turn the dial on for virtual versus in-person was actively being worked on. Fast forward to this year. My daughter is in 8th grade at Stiles Middle School and was excited to go back to school. She's an excellent student and an all-around asset to the school. On her first day back, she was surprised to hear administrators say that they had to sit at the same desk every day so they could be contact traced, and she was then allowed to go to the cafeteria with hundreds of other kids, sit wherever she wanted, and eat for 30 minutes. The 3 feet, if possible, part of the ill-defined code yellow was never possible. She came out of school saying to us that it looked like February 2020 again. She would smile about it, and I told her that I didn't want to see her smiling if she thought it was a serious situation. She promptly switched to a serious face and retold the story. While she's telling me this, I'm hearing public health officials calling for backup, hospitals are at capacity, the feds are recommending masks, they're required in federal buildings. YouTubers are saying God knows what. Politicians are pandering to their respective bases, all when people are talking in black and white terms, when this is obviously 1,000 shades of gray. This is exhausting for a parent just trying to send their kid to school, especially when their huge employer is taking this seriously and adjusting policy in close to real time. About her, she's not going to go back to school. We're looking at homeschool options. If the school won't accept our request for virtual learning that we submitted after we saw what was going on in the facility, so.
Thank you, David.
Mm-hmm.
And Shadana, did I already have you come up? Did you come up and speak? Okay. I don't know. All right, we'll leave that name on there. Maybe somebody can look and see if I'm missing something or missaying it or misreading it. So awful. All right. Now my screen moved. Ranakumar, Alexis, Prathima, and Blake.
Good afternoon, board members and superintendent, everybody. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to come over and speak for our concerns. I'm here to put my case for the virtual, to extend the virtual learning for all the students and the parents who feel that there is a need for the virtual learning right now, even if they were not on the wait list, or if they are, even if they are in the school right now and they are not feeling safe, as many of the parents and other people have already said here. Things have changed dramatically over the period of time. I would say from the last week to this week, we have seen cases going up. The county has been turning orange to red and all those things. So a lot of parents who were like me on the fence of sending the kids to the school. And I mean, we were so excited to send the kids to the school, but then looking at all this virus concerns and hospital beds getting full, we kind of took a back step and kind of changed our mind to send the kids to school. And there will be many, many more parents who would be who would be in the coming weeks to do that, do the same thing. So I would say, please extend the virtual learning capacity like we did for the last year, March 2020, where we could do it without notice, where COVID came in suddenly and we were still able to do the virtual learning. Why limit the capacity for virtual learning when we can do it like even spontaneously in March 2020. I would rest my case. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you Superintendent and Board for letting us speak, and thank you for role modeling the CDC recommendation of indoor mask wearing for all vaccinated and unvaccinated people. Hi, I'm Alexis Browder. I'm a mom, healthcare professional, and my child sitting right over there is Blake, and he attends Stiles Middle School. Blake has an immune deficiency and attended virtually the past year and a half. This school year, we decided to send him in person because we believe that LISD would keep him safe. Blake wears an N95 mask, he socially distances, and learns best in person. Unfortunately, he attended Stiles yesterday and was put in many unsafe situations. 2 out of 7 teachers didn't wear masks. 50 to 75% of kids were unmasked. And today he returned and things were much worse. More children were unmasked. There's no social distancing enforced in halls or in the cafeteria. It is much, much worse. So Blake, he decided that it is not a safe environment for him. We did also. It's not safe for him mentally or physically. And at this point, since we do not have a mask mandate, which we need, we would like LISD to provide virtual learning option, just like we did last year for middle schoolers, elementary. It's much needed. You have to mandate, you have to have virtual learning unless you mandate the mask. Let's keep our schools safer. Thank you.
Okay, I see the look. Pratima, if you want to go, and then we can go to Blake. Is that all right? Or Blake, do you want to go ahead and go? Okay, Blake is ready. Is that okay if we go ahead? Blake, please, you have the floor.
I am Blake Browder, and I'm in the 8th grade at Stiles Middle School. There are 560 students in my grade, and I have an immune deficiency, as my mom said. I am here to talk about virtual learning and the mask mandate. I went to school yesterday confident in our school district, and I wore my N95 mask to school yesterday, and I was appalled at the blatant disrespect of my health, and only 5 out of 7 of my teachers wore masks, and only 30 to 50% of students wore masks. I love school. I love seeing my teachers, but I can't speak today, because there is no mask mandate, I am no longer safe. Let me add that the hallways between each of my 8 classes were packed like sardines, and lunch was not better. I'm here to demand virtual school access for all LISD students. My friends and I, well, my writing is terrible. My friends and I all agree that we learn the best in person, but we will not stand to put our lives at risk for a bit of a better learning environment. Virtual learning access must be provided to all students. Thank you.
Good job, Blake. We do appreciate all of our learners who are here today and for speaking up. Blake, I thought you said that excellently. I think from seeing the board's faces, I think we understood exactly what you said. There's no confusion. So thank you so much for coming to speak.
Yeah, that's what I meant to do when I wrote it.
Okay, you did great. Pratima, you're up.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for giving us a chance to voice our concerns. It means a lot for us. Keeping the time limit in mind, I want to address the concern point as a parent, what I'm facing right now. Please do not limit the virtual education option for the kids, because when a parent decides to choose a virtual option for the kids, especially for the kids who had already been to school, who love to go to school, and especially for the parents who totally believes in the school district, here it is Leander ISD, we are more than happy with the school district. So in the regular times, this was a scenario. Now, we are still going for an option, a virtual option, and definitely there might be a lot of reasons for that. And one main reason is obviously, which we know, that Delta is on an exponential rise, and there are studies that are saying that kids contact and kids are fine, but we do not have enough studies. I'm a data architect. I in and out work on the data, and I am not able to have that guts to send my kids to the school, and them being, or any kid for that matter, being a case study of, what is going to happen eventually. We do not, I at least with all the research I did, I didn't find enough information. Is there any long-term effect? It's just a passing thing like a flu. It's too early. And back home in India, we know how bad the consequences were. So So this is an altogether different discussion. Yeah, extend the virtual option. That's all I have. Thank you.
No, that's fine. Thank you so much, Prathima. We appreciate you for coming to speak out. Thank you all. Thank you, community and citizens. We're going to call our next 4 speakers up. It'll be Trish, Irina, Hope, and Tristan. I have Trish, Irina, Hope, and Tristan. I'm missing one of the names. I guess we introduce yourself when you speak so I know who we're missing on our speaker. Thank you.
Got it, thank you. My name is Irina Swanson. I'm an educator, a parent, a taxpayer in Leander ISD. I support your decision to open virtual learning to as many families as possible to provide choice and opportunity. As I say this, I urge you to focus on academic excellence this year, not just for students who fell behind, but for all, whether these children are online or in person. When we neglect the needs of children who have shown excellence in school, they become at best complacent. So as you go forward with allocating funding for virtual learning, I urge you to think of all your community, students who are behind and need the extra support, and those who are bored out of their minds because programs that challenge them are being taken away in this district. Do not take away hours from science and history, PACE and Quest classes, or pre-EP and AP classes to make up for poor STAR scores. Do not limit our children. Instead, engage and blend subjects together. Create quality education instead of division when it comes to our community. While we're on the topic of division, Wednesday, I shared my petition with you. Petition to uphold parent choice of masks as ordered by Governor Greg Abbott. I started this petition to show you that our district is split between those who want mask mandates and those who stand for choice. And thus, I thank you for upholding Governor Greg Abbott's order, regardless of your personal beliefs, and opening virtual learning to those who seek it due to their personal choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Irina. Hope, is that?
Yes.
Okay,
Hope
then,
Charles.
Great, then I've missed Trish, so I'll go back at the end and see. Thank you, Hope. You can begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you for letting me speak. I'm here today to request more funding for virtual learning. What is your plan if schools shut down? How will this affect the district's funding ongoing if people pull their kids out en masse and move to Texas Connections or other districts? I believe we probably have the funds. You know how to delay virtual learning and keep the schools open. The appropriate mitigating measures, a mask mandate. It's our kids' only defense at this point. I have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old and the dual language program. And the only way they're gonna learn Spanish is in the classroom in person. We're going to let one man get in the way of protecting our kids over politics. You know what a board member in Florida told DeSantis today on withholding paychecks? Bring it. He backed down. Please tell Abbott to bring it. Keep our schools open, protect our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Hope. Tristan?
On the June 17th meeting, you discussed your plan to provide virtual learning for students with medical needs. At that meeting, you discussed you had $1.9 million that you were asking for approximately 300 students for the year. That is $6,300 per year. With the new numbers, if you are adding your 1,626 students, which you just said today, for a quarter of the year, which is 9 weeks, that is a quarter of the year based on the $6,300 is $1,575. That equates to $2.56 million, yet today you're asking for $6 million. Even if you were asking for half of the $6,300 per those students, that would still only equal $5.122 million. So I'm trying to understand where you are getting the $6 million need and where you're asking this money from, since that's not clarified completely for the public. Given our current district debt and financial status, I think every penny counts, and we need to understand where our tax dollars are being put. I'm also very concerned to hear that you're pulling 82 teachers, in-person teachers, for after school has started to participate in the virtual learning. The money you're asking for today should be used to hire new virtual teachers, not pulling them from our in-person students and robbing them of their campuses of the normalcy they were promised this year. We should not be doing anything further that furthers the not known learning gap. If you are going to provide virtual learners, then you need to do it best for both in-person and out-person. By the way, have you considered talking to the parents about the great online school opportunities that exist today that are free of charge? They obviously have been doing it for years and likely are doing it without the gaps and at a much better quality than we have been providing across the nation for the last 18 months.
Thank you, Tristan. All right, we'll call Lakshima, Colin, Erica, and Eric. I did the wrong accent too on the first part of the name, but I don't see her here. Let me see. I think it's Lakshmi, L-E. Oh, I should just use my glasses. L-E-K-S-H-M-I. Not, okay. All right, then we have Colin, Erica, and Eric.
Hello, thank you for doing this. My name is Colin Klein. I'm a representative from the True Texas Project. We're launching a chapter here in Williamson County. It's a Christian-based organization founded, and our goal is to hold local representatives to account on constitutional basic principles. It's nonpartisan. It's not designed to be partisan. It's supposed to be both sides and simply designed to build accountability for everybody and provide a better environment for that. So that being said, in regards to the $6 million for virtual learning to me, when I hear virtual learning, the word I hear is homeschooling. So we're subsidizing homeschooling, basically. And I think you're putting more of a burden on yourself than is necessary. There are plenty of other excellent options that can be tailor-made toward an individual student's needs outside of our school system. So you're forcing kids to all go into this one little funnel. And they're very cheap and very affordable, and it's possible. And that solves everyone's problem, by the way. No, it doesn't. Except for and then it also does not subsidize it and holds us, and then the $6 million comes out of our property taxes. And that is going to be a crisis by the end of the year once people see that bill hit. So I'm just saying there's going to be a lot more attention on the thing that is taking the most of our money, which is this school district. So that's not, I'm here to help and to communicate and work with you guys. I don't want that to be perceived as like a threat, just an observation.
All right, Colin. Audience, I will remind you when our speakers are speaking, let's honor their time to speak, and I want to make sure they each get their moment. Erica, you're up.
So I brought my son because he should be in school right now, but he's not because there's no mask mandate.
Yep.
Last year, y'all did a great job. He didn't go to school till after spring break. He went in, wore a mask, there was sanitizer, there was everything he needed. It was amazing. I confidently was ready for him to go in person. When the governor lifted the mask mandate, I was like, okay, well, there'll be a vaccine because those vaccines are moving fast. Well, there is no vaccine. So now I'm left putting my child's life at risk. Now, the district strongly encourages them to wear masks. Y'all can't even do that. There's two of you who are strongly encouraged to wear a mask that aren't. So if in this little group you see that, can you imagine what's going on in the schools? I'm not willing to put my child at risk. We were told that by August 8th they needed to be enrolled on the wait list. I went on August 5th to do that. The link was broken. It said it was the file was not available. I sent an email to the person that it said to contact, didn't receive an answer until August 10th. He is not on the wait list. So what am I supposed to do? Okay, homeschooling is not an option because it's not free. Where I Like we all say, we pay our public dollars, right? Our tax dollars to get him into school. I would prefer him to be in school with a mask, with everyone wearing masks. And I know he would prefer that too. What do you think, Jude?
Yep.
Tell him what you want to say.
Oh, wait, let me restart the time so he can say what he wants
Yeah,
to.
say what you want to say, baby.
Is that Eric?
No, this
Erica.
is Jude.
Okay.
I'm Erica.
I just want to be in school again.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking, both of y'all. I appreciate that so much. All right, let's make sure that I stay with the right names. And so Eric is going to be next.
Yeah, Eric Bruce. I've got 2 daughters at River Place Elementary, and I do not come from a place of anger or frustration. I wanted to come here from a place of a position of saying thank you. There's no playbook for this situation. It's hard for all of us. I lead a $500 million business. Every decision is tough. Nobody's happy with any decision you make, but I just implore you guys to stay the course, because this continuous improvement mindset is the right type of mindset. And the decision you're making this evening to open up more virtual learning provides an opportunity for a lot of the students that obviously have challenges that maybe my kids don't have. But I also, listening in today, I hear a lot of people challenging and discussing mask mandates, et cetera. And I just find it interesting. We don't talk about the facts enough oftentimes when we sit here. We talk about our feelings and how people should be and dictate that. And there was more kids that died in the flu season of 2018 and 2019 in the US, according to the CDC, than the entirety of COVID for the past year and a half. There's a 0.008% fatality rate for the over 4 million children that have died. So for them, I think if you're fearful of it or your children are in a tough spot, I think absolutely virtual is the right step. But then you've also got parents that believe and genuinely know that in person and without a mask. I heard people talking about the guy who was sitting here before, his child smiling. How could he even see his child smiling with the mask on? Interpersonal skills are important. I know they're got me where I am today, and I really want my children to learn in an environment where it's conducive to good education, where everybody has an opportunity to learn the way that they're comfortable. So stay the course. Don't be forced by all of the pressure. There's leaders in Austin right now. Beto on Twitter, I was looking the last 24, 48 hours. He's literally calling out every single school district with his 100,000 followers and telling them to call every single one of you in every single school district and demand that you listen and enforce masks. And that's not how we should do things as a country. So stay the course. You guys are doing great with the cards you were dealt with. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Eric. Audience, I know we have a lot of opinions, so let's try to keep the decorum and move on to Esme and Paul. Wait, I've been asked, y'all can come up, but I have a timeout that I've been told, so we'll see what's going on technically. 1 second. While we're at it, let me also do the calls for the other names that I didn't see here. Shadana, Trish, and not me, Trish, another one, and Lakshmi. Okay. Technical. We need 1 minute and we'll get started. All right, so my last two speakers for the evening, or morning, sorry, if I could get y'all to afternoon, get one at a time. I'm gonna have y'all go sit at table 4. We have a camera that's frozen on that location. So Esme, if we can get you to go over there and speak, and then when Esme's done, Paul will ask you to move to 4 when she's finished. Yes, thank you so much for being flexible with us. We really appreciate it.
So thank you to the board for allowing citizens to speak about the safety of our Leander ISD schools. I'm here as a parent. I have 2 children in Leander ISD schools. I have emailed you guys this week. My children are aged 10 and 12. One is vaccinated and one is not. Over the past year and a half, my kids were in virtual learning. So I'm happy to hear you guys are expanding virtual learning. But what's going to happen when the schools close down because of so many cases? Are we able to pivot to virtual learning easily? I'm really here to compel you guys to do a mask mandate. We absolutely need to have children in school. Okay, that's what you guys are saying. They learn the best when they're in person. If we look around this room, most people are wearing masks. It should not be a political issue. Masks work. And the science is behind that. So I would just ask the board, how are you guys going to pivot when the schools have to shut down due to the many cases that are going to come up? Thank you.
Esme, thank you so much. Paul, if you wouldn't mind moving to the 4th table. Our timer may be, our timer may be off. So, oh, there we go. Now it's on. Okay. Oh, we're going to need it to reset. Okay, there you go. Paul, whenever you're ready.
We don't have the money. I love the idea of helping everyone. We don't have the money. We're operating at an $18 to $25 million deficit this year. I love the idea of helping the people go to the Texas Connect, which is already free, and they've been doing it for over 25 years. I think if people really have a situation, and we don't know everyone's situation, we just don't, which is why I'm a firm believer of, people have been vaccinated or not, they shouldn't ask. You don't know what someone's going through from the day before to this day. That's why they passed those HIPAA rules. We have rules in place. People want to wear a mask. People want to get vaccinated. Okay. Choose your life. I don't always envy your situation because it is a tough spot to be in. You're supposed to be the best of us, and I've seen some not so best of you online lately, which isn't great, but look, we don't have the money. People have an issue. You need to push them towards the programs that are already in place. And if they want to wear a mask or not, it's up to them. They want to get a vaccination or not, it's up to them.
All right, thank you, Paul. Now, audience, please. Right now, on a consultation with attorney, we are going to be going into closed session for consultation with attorney for purposes permitted under Texas Government Code 551.071. There will be no action taken in closed. We will return back to open as soon as we conclude. Sorry, 1:09, and we are going into closed session.
Test.
All right, board members, it is 1:53 and we are back into open session. We're going to move into our agenda item. Consider amendment to the board's June 17th, 2021 resolution committing fund balance regarding virtual learning and revenue stabilization. We'll go ahead and consider approval of an amendment to 2021-2022 academic calendar for students enrolled in LISD remote learning program only. Since those are our main items, in case they cross over, y'all can talk how we need, discuss how we need.
Thank you, Madam President. And I would like to just address both together and explain one after the other, and then open it up for board questions and conversation. The board previously approved utilization of funds for a limited virtual academy to serve as an option for students and families during the COVID-19 pandemic. Due to significant demand that we've seen, the administration is proposing expanding access to virtual education for students who were waitlisted as of August 8th, 2021 at 11:59 p.m. for the virtual academy. Doing so will have an impact on ADA funding because each student who elects to access the virtual program then doesn't earn state dollars for those students. Therefore, the administration is asking the board to amend its June 17th, 2021 resolution, which already committed fund balance. We're asking you to include an additional $6 million for virtual learning revenue stabilization in order to ensure adequate funding for virtual education services for these students for the first 9 weeks of the 21-22 school year. If we do that, then we do have to adjust the academic calendar for the 21-22 school year, which was approved on January 28th of 2021. Due to significant demand, we're of course going to expand the virtual learning program. We're requesting that you do that. And if we do that, we do need to pause our remote learners until Thursday, August 19th, 2021 for their start, so that we can ensure that we have the right services stood up for them. And then after their August 19th start date, they'll follow the regular calendar schedule for as long as they are enrolled. And should the state enact funding for virtual learning with additional requirements, the calendar would then need to be revised to meet such requirements. But for right now, all we're asking is a change of the start date for our virtual learners to August of 19th, 2021.
All right, board members, questions? Questions on our virtual remote learning. I know there was a lot of families that did not sign up for the wait list because at the time they saw that there was a very expansive wait list and just didn't feel like it was a realistic opportunity. So they did not take advantage of that. And so wondering what the process will be to accommodate those families.
Thank you. That's a great question. In order to accommodate the number of students that we had on the wait list as of the closing of that wait list last Sunday, we would need approximately $4.3 million to do the first 9 weeks. We're asking the board for up to $6 million for that purpose of identifying any other students who on a case-by-case basis need access to virtual learning. That would include students who are not on the wait list and also students who are on the wait list but in grades 7 through 12. So as you know, we're only able to serve K through 6 students right now on the virtual academy wait list and not any who are additionally on that 7-12 wait list. We do have, of course, pre-K through 12 students in that original 298 students that we are going to be serving, but this gives us a little bit of cushion to try on a case-by-case basis to meet the needs of individual students.
A follow-up to Gloria's question. I know some parents and some of our staff were a little confused in regards to who is offered for virtual at the beginning. What does that look like in terms of outreach? Will we reopen the link? Are we going to educate every campus? I mean, what about the parents who don't have access to fill out that link? Like, what does that outreach look like to find those students so they can take advantage of virtual schooling?
So I don't know exactly what that looks like yet. Depending on the action the board takes today, we will then go away and make sure that first we're meeting the remote learning needs of the students we've promised that to already. And then we will look to see how we can best expand that on a case-by-case basis to make sure we're meeting as many needs as possible. But I don't know exactly what that looks like yet.
So the delta between the you said 4.3?
Yes, sir.
To 6, 1.7, how many more students do you anticipate the 1.7 would accommodate?
Again, I'm not 100% sure. We have 508 students on the 712 wait list, but not all of those, I don't believe, will necessarily have a need that qualifies, I think, in this case. So we're going to have to look at those on a case-by-case basis. The trick with the 712 students is that they do have access to vaccination, so we'll have to look at that very carefully. I think this is a good start. I also think that if we get in a situation where there are needs that are not being met, I anticipate coming back to the board to ask for additional funds if necessary.
I also just want to add that I hope that as vaccines become available and for our younger student population, they'll come back. And I know some people talked about different charter online schools and other online school options. I think it's important that we keep them a part of the LISD community so that they are part of the virtual program for a 9-week period or 2 9-week, whatever that turns out to be, that they're able to then easily transfer back into our in-class on a campus with their classmates in their community. So I'm glad that we're able to offer this option. I am concerned that it's not going to be able to reach enough. So please keep us posted on what those numbers look like. And if we have to address, then we have to figure out what that next step is to take care of our community as best we can.
Thank you. And your point helps me to remember something I also meant to say, which is we are asking for this funding for the first 9 weeks. So we will have to reevaluate at some point in time in that 9 weeks whether we're going to end that option at 9 weeks or whether we're going to extend it into the next 9 weeks. If we extend it, then we will have to come back to the board for additional funding.
Is this something that we could set aside an amount, and maybe this is a question for Elaine, set aside a fund, a line, give it its own number, put this amount of funds, I think she called it committed funds. I'm just thinking, instead of keep coming back and going, okay, now we need this, if we have an idea of what it looks like, should we have to do this for half a year? What's that number? Can we put it in there and then keep tabs on what we're spending? I don't know. Just
It's a great thought. I will tell you that we've done that for this first 9 weeks, and that's why we're bringing you the $6 million number. We know that we're in a really rapidly changing environment. Right. There are a lot of things that could change one way or the other in the next several weeks. I think we're going to watch and see, as that plays out, and we'll be able to come back to the board in a timely enough manner for us to be able to meet those needs.
It's not an ideal solution. I think everybody agrees to that, but it does. It's within our area of responsibility. It's within our control, and it gives. We have the ability to do something. So yeah, let's move forward with this.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments earlier, Dr. Gearing. I think they reflect the sentiments that I expressed at our last meeting about compulsion versus choice, and I think it's a very dynamic environment. The only effective way to address this is by giving the members of our community some options and letting them choose the best option for themselves and their loved ones. I recognize that we will never have enough choices to give everyone everything that they need. But I think we're at least moving in a positive direction by providing one other really important option to many of our families and students. As a result, I'm a strong supporter of this effort. I think providing this virtual option for more of our students and making it inclusive to those who who have a need is a really important step, not just for K through 6, but also for 7 through 12, because there are a number of students who, for various health reasons, are not good candidates for the vaccine. And we want to make sure that we're providing them the best options available, best options for their particular situation. Because I am a strong supporter of this initiative, I think it's important that we move forward today on this, and I'm ready to express that support formally, but I do want to make sure we keep a close eye on and an eye on the details financially for this initiative. I think when we talked previously, the initial virtual program for 300 students or so, we anticipated that those were largely incremental positions to staff that. We know that given the changes that are occurring to the virtual program, existing staff has been pulled out of in-person instruction to staff virtual. And so I just want to keep a close eye on and understand how our plans for virtual have changed and how that affects our headcount planning for virtual and the associated costs. Because as we, I guess in short, my expectation is that this will be a little bit more efficient from a cost perspective than we initially planned, because we will be using some teaching resources that we already had on staff. And so I'm interested to see how that all shakes out. But like I say, I don't need to know that today to express support for this direction.
Yeah, I appreciate those comments. Teaching-wise, that is true, but with bigger numbers, it's going to require more oversight, and so we may have some different costs that we incur now, and so we're busy working with that right now. We wanted to make sure that we had board support before we jumped into that. The other thing to just remember as we go forward is that we are also advocating at the legislative level for state funding for remote learning, because we believe that it is the state's responsibility to fund remote learning in this particular situation. And so we'll continue to advocate at the state level. Senate Bill 15 did pass the Senate, and so we're now waiting on the process to pass through the other side of on the House side. We'll continue to support it as best we can.
I noticed on August 10th, the letter was sent out in regards to remote learning. I also noticed on this letter, it indicated if you suspect your child may have a disability and a need for special education services, please reach out. My question is, did our numbers increase by this because we're able to identify students who require services? And then what does that look like for these students virtually? Because I have 2 kids in special education. We could not have our services in person versus virtually were not the same. So I want to ensure that those families are going to qualify for compensatory services, and how are we going to collect that data? Because those are the students that are going to suffer here.
We have similar concerns. This is a very challenging area for us. We have to make sure that we're identifying students who have new needs for special education services, and so we're working diligently to make sure that we're following up with any of those families who've indicated that need. We also have to make sure that the environment that we create for that child is the right environment. In some cases, it's challenging because their health needs and their educational needs dictate different things. And so we're going to work with our ODD committees. That's what our committees are established to do, is to really make that collective decision with input from all the stakeholders in those situations. And so we'll continue to work diligently to make sure that we meet the needs of each individual student, given the constraints that we have, to the best of our ability.
And to add on to that, I know that some of our students are switching to homebound. I mean, I have a student who is immune compromised, but he needs to be in person. So at this moment, we're kind of juggling. What is our homebound service department, how is that going? Are they okay? Because I know that a lot of students are switching to that, but then I know it's a fine balance, but I'm just ensuring that we're giving this department and our staff and our families as much support as possible.
Absolutely, and those of course are evolving needs and changes, and so as those numbers change and as we get more students changing placements, we're having to adjust our staffing to meet those needs, and so we'll continue to work with that on a daily basis. I'm feel very confident in our team and their ability to really interact with individual families and make sure we understand the needs, but then also to make sure that we're meeting those needs from a system perspective.
Okay, awesome.
Have we looked at, and do we have the technical support for those that may want to do virtual learning, but maybe digitally insecure? Do we have technology available for them, and how do we get that technology to them?
Yes, we've been working very closely with Jason and his team, and they're doing a fantastic job of making sure that we have adequate numbers of devices, that connectivity is taken care of, and that we have help desk support available for any of those students who are moving to remote learning.
And the second part of that question, as one of the speakers had indicated, was the, we're providing lunches for everybody. Is there a mechanism in place to ensure that for our virtual learners?
There is not, and I just want to remind you that last year we were able to do that. Remember, we had about 50% of our kids in person last year. This year we have closer to 90 or 100% of our kids in person, and we are having some trouble, as I mentioned, staffing CNS. That puts a really logistical burden on us right now. So at this point of the process, we are not able to provide meals for virtual students. We'll continue to search for ways to make that possible, but as of this moment, we are not providing food for our virtual learners.
If a family who is virtual reaches out and needs food assistance, are we going to deny them?
So we do not have the ability right now to serve them. We do have the ability to find other ways to connect them to resources that can help them, and so we'll continue to work with those.
Is there any repercussions for us, because it is a federal grant, am I assuming? Is there any federal repercussions for us? So say virtual does get added to ADA and we have students who we're getting money for, but we're not providing food, will we get in trouble for that?
So John's going to jump up
Sorry,
and
John.
help at this point.
So there's two different things we're looking at. Currently, our food service contract, which goes through the Texas Department of Agriculture, which is then also through the USDA, does not allow us to serve students that are through a remote learning process. If the state comes back and makes changes and we are allowed to have the program that's provided with state funding, we would be able to provide lunches to those students. Penn and her staff and Brandon are working very closely to find ways to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all students, regardless if they're remote. But we also do not want to get out of our contract and cause any concerns, and so we are following the rules presented to us, finding ways to still take care of our kids.
Thank you, John.
Is that something we can self-fund?
So I don't know all the rules offhand. I can get a answer to that question, but I think that would cause us to be able to potentially be in violation of our contract. But I will find an answer to that question.
I have every confidence in the administration's ability to do the operational aspects. I'm more thinking out loud, but I do want to, if there is a way to make sure that our, especially our economically disadvantaged and our underserved community that may be in a virtual, if that's a support they need, I want to make sure that we're turning every rock to make sure that we can support them.
Completely agree, and that's the mindset of our team also.
I know it is.
I appreciate the district for everything you are doing, and I love hearing our board's heart. Of course, we want to meet each and every child's needs. That's in our core belief. Each and every student is at the heart of our decisions. I think as we move forward, looking at the current trend, we are, I feel, as a district, picking up the tab, covering a lot of additional cost that the state used to pick up and did pick up in a pre-environment that they didn't. So I hope Dr. Gehring, maybe at some point, and maybe not now or immediately, but in the near future, for us to be able to see the total because there are things we're asking. We're like, well, can we do this, or can we fund for that, or can we fund for that? We're going to run out at some point. I appreciate you bringing the information to us. We're balancing. I'm not saying the district is not doing an amazing job. What I'm saying is I want us to be able to have that forecast as we continue, if this process continues and we need to do more things that the state isn't paying for, to help us have capacity to understand how we're balancing.
Yes, ma'am. We'll certainly bring you updates as we go. I think that's part of the reason that as an administration, we're bringing this in smaller chunks. So we know we can do this for 9 weeks. The capacity to do this after that becomes questionable, and we'll continue to make those recommendations. I think things are changing very rapidly, though, and it would be wise for us to take smaller steps and smaller chunks and watch and see what happens as we go.
The 82 teachers who are going to be virtual, I'd like to know like what kind of virtual learning support are we going to give to them as far as devices? I remember last year a lot of our teachers had to pay out of pocket and get creative, so our students had the same education virtually. So what does that look like for those teachers?
So again, I can't speak directly to that, but I will tell you that we are listening very carefully to our teachers. We did that all of last 18 months and to hear their need and what they need to really support that right student experience, that right learning environment. And so we're going to work really hard to make sure that we meet whatever those needs are. We do have a lot of that technology now that we got last year. It mostly means just moving it around and getting it in the right spots and in the right hands.
Are many or some or half, are these teachers that have been selected, was there a volunteer for this in first round, and what did that look like?
We did have a process to make sure that any who wanted to go virtual could, and then we did have to go in some cases to a last in, first out, unfortunately, and so we had to have a reason to do that, and that's what we chose to do.
Dr. Gehring, I know it's somewhere in here, and I was just trying to refresh my memory, but since I can't find it, I'm sorry, I have to ask just to make sure I'm on the same page. This isn't the virtual academy. It's going to be a virtual learning system that we're setting up. What is this then? Is it like an asynchronous, synchronous, and we're going through a system to set it up? Our pre-K is going to go through parents, teachers. I know we've gotten this in a memo, but can you just help give me that overview?
Yes, so pre-K students, we don't feel confident that we can provide a really solid virtual experience in terms of them sitting at the other end of a computer for hours on end. And so we are utilizing our Parents as Teachers program to help facilitate learning experiences with their parents for those pre-K students who are electing not to come in person. We still have a lot of pre-K students who are electing to come in person, by the way, and that's a good thing. For our K-6 students, so the program that we had envisioned for the 300 students that Matt Benson and his team have been working on was really a fully standalone virtual academy where the teachers are completely online, the students are completely online. That was going to be a mix of synchronous and asynchronous work, obviously. They're utilizing a lot of tools to make sure that they have access to really quality learning experiences. As we bring in these other students, the reason that we're bringing teachers over from the in-person side to the virtual side is that we, again, want standalone teachers. So none of this is, we don't have any teachers who are going to be teaching in-person kids and remote kids at the same time. These are dedicated remote teachers now who will be working with dedicated classrooms of remote students. And so that experience will be quite different from some of what we saw last year. At the secondary level, it's a little different. We have some teachers from New Hope High School who are going to be assisting us in making sure that our virtual students are getting the experiences that they need to be successful. And they have a lot of experience in the virtual world through New Hope High School, and so they will continue to work with Edgenuity and those students at the secondary level.
Board members, any other questions? If there's no more questions,
we can still talk, but I'm going to move us on a little bit. I move that the board approve an amendment of the June 17, 2021 resolution committing fund balance to include assignment of $6 million of fund balance for virtual learning revenue stabilization in accordance with GASB 54.
Second?
I have a motion from Gloria, a second from Aaron. Are there any other questions? Dr. Gehring, thank you for bringing this to the board. It was not an easy option, but I know that y'all made it after a lot of deliberation and discussions. Thank you for speaking to the legislature, and thank you to our principals, our teachers, our registrars, our receptionists. This feels like a quick change, and I know they are doing an amazing job. And what I will just paraphrase it, but I think the sentiment I heard was, this isn't the most fun, but if it's going to help the kids, and at the end of the day we're getting kids what they need, then I'm all for it. So we have an amazing staff out there, so thank you so much. Anything else? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Where's Christine? 7 ayes, no nays. Motion carries.
Thank you, board, for your support.
The next motion that I'll read is, I move that the Board of Trustees amend the 2021-2022 academic calendar to reflect the start date of August 19th, 2021 for students enrolled in the LISD remote learning program only. The academic calendar for students attending school in person on our campuses is unchanged.
Second.
Have a motion from Gloria, second from Aaron. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. 7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Board members, we can go ahead and adjourn, but we did have the superintendent's report we put off. Do y'all need to have any other discussion on that? Otherwise, we will go ahead and...
I just have a question. Can we ensure that we educate our public on parents as teachers? Because it's a great program. And I know we're really relying on them right now. And I'd love to see us shouting from the rooftops what they're doing over there.
Yes, ma'am.
I have one public service announcement. For those who are facing food insecurities and need meals provided, Reveal Resource Center is an excellent resource center to our community. They are located on 1150 South Bell Boulevard. They will put a box of food into your car on Mondays from 7 to 8 p.m. or Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. They are always looking for volunteers. It's a great way for your students to get NHS hours and or donations. They are also looking for a driver for food pickups from different organizations that donate to them. But Reveal Resource is a great partner in our community and helps with our backpack programs on Fridays and etc. Thank you.
All right, board members, thank you so much. I'm so thankful for you that I get to serve alongside y'all. If there's no further objection or any questions, we'll go ahead and adjourn at 2:20.